This is Coach Lee, and you're listening to The Door Report.
It's my quarterback.
Welcome back into The Door Report, and welcome into episode 333 on a lovely, rainy as hell, Tuesday evening, September 16th, 2025. I'm Will Byrum, joined as always by my co-host, Trevor Hulan, a.k.a. Hack Squat, Jim Duggan. Here at The Door Report, we are presented by 615 Collectibles. If you're into sports cards or sports memorabilia, check out 615 Collectibles on eBay. Items include NFL team packs, graded cards, individual cards, and more. Shipping is always fast and free. We also have the quick ad read from Roback Activewear. I was once again rocking my lucky Roback polo for this Commodore 3-0 start on Saturday. I'm now stuck in this outfit permanently until the Doors lose, and they may never lose. But Roback Activewear, there is only one way to describe Roback: best fit, best feel. For those who aren't familiar with Roback, they are completely changing the game with their incredibly comfortable activewear. So comfy. Roback has released so many items within their newly licensed game day collection, and it's our favorite. Is it your favorite, Trevor?
It's my favorite as well.
Well, yeah, so it is our favorite. With novel polo designs and clean hoodie and quarter zip designs for some of your favorite schools, it's definitely worth checking out. Do you think it's worth checking out, Trevor?
Definitely worth checking out.
Definitely worth checking out. Nobody else on the market is pairing these levels of custom designs with this quality of activewear. Have you seen anybody else in the market?
I've checked the market. Nobody else is doing it like Roback.
I called the market directly.
Yeah.
The market said no one but Roback is doing this.
Yep.
Roback's everyday shorts or their Delta performance pants are the perfect pairing as well. They're both super comfortable, have an elastic waistband, and great fabric that is made to have the appearance of a nice short look, but the comfort for a day on the move. You can move so freely and so comfortably in these everyday shorts or the Delta performance pants, just with a nice short look.
It's almost like you're not wearing anything.
It's incredible. You can move so comfortably. Roback has also been proudly leading the NIL charge, having signed partnerships with multiple college football stars, both past and present, and are becoming the go-to brand for college athletes across the country. I talked to all the college athletes. And they're like, man, this is the go-to brand.
Yeah.
You can use code VAN20, that is VAN20, all capitals, no spaces, on Roback.com for a generous 20% off for all new customers. That's spelled Roback, RHOBACK.com. That's 20% off all performance polos, shorts, and more with code VAN20, VAN20. Trevor, the Vanderbilt Commodores, now that we can dive into this episode, the Vanderbilt Commodores are now ranked 20th in the country, according to the AP poll, after defeating South Carolina in Williams-Brice Stadium on the road. The number 11 team in the country, Vanderbilt, dominated 31-7. We will be digging into that game on this episode. We will also be previewing the Georgia State game that is coming up this Saturday, a get-back game for the Vanderbilt Commodores. As odd as that sounds, every Vanderbilt fan out there knows that. But Trevor, before we get into all that, you know what I'm going to ask.
Oh, yeah.
It's vibe check time. How are you feeling?
Vibe check, 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10, 12 out of 10. I would argue the vibes have never been higher for Vanderbilt football. Now, people would say, hey, the Alabama game. Now, that was a record high, but that was a one-time thing as well. I think the vibes are continuous this season. It's great to be a Commodore right now. Slayed the Cox. The curse is over. It's still, and we were talking about this before pod, and then you can get to your vibe check. It still doesn't feel real to me. Like, I still feel like I'm living in a dream, if that makes sense.
As Mark McNulty said on the post-game spaces that we did on Twitter that lasted almost 2 hours and went to almost 1 a.m., the Cox went soft. The Cox went flaccid. We are in episode 333 after week 3 of college football, and the Vanderbilt Commodores are 3-0. Maybe this is destiny. Maybe it is. As you said before the season, what if all of this is it's all leading to this one beautiful moment, this one magical season? I'm starting to kind of buy into your train of thought there the more the season progresses.
I tell you what, a little inside baseball. I earlier this season I had a talk with Clark Lee, and I was like, "Coach, you're gonna do it. You're gonna do it." And he's like, "But hack squat. What if I fail?" And I said, "Oh baby, but what if you fly?" Clark had to make a couple bands by his lonely to get this program up and running.
Dude, getting to Clark Lee before we get in, we have a locked and loaded episode. I don't know. I didn't know what to respond to that. Getting into this to Clark Lee and what he has done and what this staff has accomplished, and we will touch on this throughout the episode. We have a lot to talk about, but 2 coaches have already been fired early in this season: Deshaun Foster at UCLA, Brent Pry at Virginia Tech. You have already seen a little bit of murmurings and comments and different things from people talking about, congratulations, Vanderbilt, on growing and developing Florida's next head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. This is different. This is exactly why leading up to this season and after last season, we talked about this being different than the James Franklin era. This is our guy.
Yep.
This is our guy to do it.
He's one of us.
This is the guy that grew up here, grew up a fan, walked on at Vanderbilt and played fullback, brought his family back to Nashville where he wants to be. This is different. Don't worry about that stuff. That is opposing fan bases, mostly Tennessee fans, just talking out of their ass, hoping to get a rise. So don't even give it.
Don't engage.
But we have a locked and loaded episode 333 here. Before we get into all that and more, we are now a part of the On3 Publisher Network. Visit thedoreport.com today and subscribe to a monthly or annual premium membership and support TDR to access premium content as well as our premium message board behind closed doors. Also, don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Door Report. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our podcast is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, and Google Podcasts. And while you're at it, give our podcast 5 stars and a review on iTunes or Spotify and subscribe to that YouTube channel. It's now time for segment 1.
You know, there's tons of people that vote on the AP poll, and it's not a perfect system, but at the end of the day, no matter who you pick, it does even out because there's so many people who vote. And like I said, it's really fun for discussion. It doesn't, probably matter in the end, but I'm glad that people are having a really good time with it.
Welcome back into episode 333 and welcome into segment 1. Before we get into the South Carolina recap, first, there's been a little bit of news on the NCAA versus whatever the hell you want to call it, constant lawsuits being filed against the NCAA. We're going to touch on this really briefly because personally, I don't have any expertise in this. I don't know anything besides the slight bit that pertains to Diego Pavia, which he has addressed. Basically, once again, lawyers that represented Pavia, and any of this that is incorrect, do not take this as gospel, okay? Because once Pavia tweeted what I'm about to reference in a second, I stopped really digging into it. But the lawyers that represented Pavia basically laid the groundwork in legal proceedings to make Diego Pavia eligible for an additional year, is basically what happened. This was reported all across college football, including by Pete Nakos. Diego Pavia quoted an On3 tweet and said, "Cap, this is my final year," or "this is my last year," one of those two. So even if this is granted, Diego Pavia is not going to pursue a 7th year of college football. At least that's what he tweeted. That doesn't mean the report was incorrect necessarily of what this applies to other players that are in a similar situation. But Diego Pavia, by his own voice, and if you can't trust the own voice of the player, then I'm not sure where you're going to take your reports from. He said he's not going to use it. So it's not going to impact Diego Pavia directly. But I'm still waiting to hear from George and Blake on any of the actual nitty-gritty of this.
You know who you really can't trust, though, whenever it comes out of their mouth? In terms of denying Pete Nakos reports, Nico Iamaleava's father.
No, you cannot.
That's one person whose mouth you cannot trust.
That is true. And what a horrible situation Nico Iamaleava is.
He's going to transfer again. I don't want to get off the topic, but he's going to transfer again. But I'm in the same boat with you. As much as I would like for Diego Pavia to return for a 7th season, and people who, and I understand what people say when they say that that this would be bad for college football. I get where you're coming from, but also I mean this with the utmost sincerity, and this is somebody who loves college football with all my heart and soul. I don't care. I want Diego Pavia back a 7th season if at all possible.
Oh, of course. As a Vanderbilt fan,
As a
I don't
Vanderbilt
give a
fan.
shit about the grand-reaching impact of this.
The grand-reaching impact of the NCAA and every other NCAA ruling has never cared about Vanderbilt, so I don't care about the future of the NCAA.
Precisely. Nailed that. That's about all we really have or anything to go on. We'll know more in upcoming weeks and so forth. Now let's get to the South Carolina game. What a game we witnessed on Saturday evening / Saturday night. Vanderbilt goes in to Williams-Brice, the number 11 AP ranked team in the country, South Carolina, and beats South Carolina 31-7. Vanderbilt was up 14-7 at half, and then once again poured it on in the second half, 17-0. Final score of 31-7. Now I do have to add in, Lenora Sellers was injured at the very end of the first half, about a minute 50 left in the first half. Langston Patterson came in with an arm up going for the ball, face mask to chin / face mask to face mask contact that was ruled targeting. Nothing egregious, not like a launch or anything, not lowering the crown of a helmet, but it was ruled targeting. Lenora Sellers was down, went out with what is presumed to be a concussion. There's nothing else it possibly could have been. They immediately took away his helmet, and Lenora Sellers did not play the remainder of the game. That has been brought up repeatedly, and I want to address it early, and we will continue to address it. That, when I voiced this opinion, obviously that impacted the game. I'm not saying it had zero impact on the game. However, with Lenora Sellers at quarterback, the South Carolina offense had put up 7 points in an entire half. Lenora Sellers had thrown a bad interception in the red zone. And the previous 2 games before this, to start the 2025 season, the South Carolina offense had not put up more than 17 offensive points with Lenora Sellers at quarterback for the entirety of the game against Virginia Tech and South Carolina State. Let's not pretend like Lenora Sellers had been lighting the world on fire. Every bit of hype that Lenora Sellers had been receiving this season was all based on spec.
Yeah.
There's nothing he has done this season that has been exceptional. I'm not saying that he's not better than Luke Doty, South Carolina fans. I'm not saying it obviously had an impact. If Vanderbilt would have won this game 17-7, you'd have a much better argument.
Absolutely.
Or 17-10, or even 21-10. That's not what happened.
Yeah.
South Carolina's defense and their defensive line and offensive line got overpowered in the second half. Exactly what we saw against Virginia Tech. And I'm not going to get too much into it because it's going to talk over some of my keys. Obviously, it has an impact on the game. No one is arguing that.
Yeah.
But Vanderbilt didn't sneak by South Carolina after Lenora Sellers. Vanderbilt was leading. When Lenora Sellers got hurt, Vanderbilt was up 14-7. Let's not pretend like before that he'd put up Joey Aguilar first half numbers like he did against Georgia and just been unstoppable and put up 21 points in a quarter and a half. That's not what was happening.
Yeah. And it's like you said, if Lenora Sellers had stayed in this game, realistically, it would have been a 31-17 victory for Vanderbilt. Because here's another thing. Lenora Sellers doesn't play defense. And Vanderbilt was scoring on that South Carolina defense, whether Lenora Sellers was throwing the rock or not. So at the end of the day, Vanderbilt was going to win that ball game, point blank.
Yes, Vanderbilt was the better team. I said it in the spaces. There was a talent disparity on that field. And unlike years past, it was in the favor of Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt was the deeper and more talented team throughout that game. Vanderbilt started out the game in the 31-7 victory with a beautiful 9-play, 73-yard touchdown drive to start off the game with a capped off by a one-handed catch from Cedric Alexander. Just a beautifully designed drive. South Carolina immediately answered back with a 7-play, 75-yard touchdown drive. And then it was 7-7. That was the last scoring for the South Carolina Gamecocks for the remainder of the game. Vanderbilt went into half leading 14-7 after a missed field goal from Mason Love, South Carolina's kicker, from 53 yards away. Vanderbilt came out in the second half. South Carolina got ball first. Vanderbilt immediately forced a 3-and-out, and then a 4-play, 75-yard touchdown drive capped off by a 44-yard touchdown run by James L. Laster.
I don't want to speak too much on him because whenever we get to the keys, he may or may not be my number one key. But
Okay.
I want to say I called it. But more importantly, give that man a scholarship. And we'll get to it. Key one. I'm not joking. That kid deserves a scholarship.
I was wrong. Trevor was right. I will admit that, unlike other people that have podcasts. Trevor, you said something about James L. Laster being the third head of that three-headed monster out of the backfield, and Cedric Alexander, MK Young, and James L. Laster, and I kind of pulled back and disagreed with you. You were right. You were absolutely right. And he's getting a lot of attention for that 44-yard touchdown run, but there was one in particular that was a third down conversion where it was a shovel pass to James L. Laster, and he made 3 men miss to pick up that first down. He just has that slipperiness and balance that you can't really teach, and also doesn't really show up that well in thud tempo at fall camp until you actually hit the field. That's what we talked about leading up to
That's
the
a
season.
really, 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 really good point. Is what he's good at. It's like you said with CJ Hurd, and it applies to James L. Laster. What James L. Laster is really good at is hard to see in thud tempo practices.
Yeah, exactly. And we were at fall camp, so we did not mention James L. Laster a lot outside of he had a lot of carries because you expected to see that. Him and Gabe Fields had a ton of carries during fall camp. That's just what we expected the 4th and 5th string running backs to do to keep those other guys healthy. I personally, like, James L. Laster was solid in camp. I just never expected him to actually have an on-the-field impact, kind of like Caleb Barnett. Like, I just didn't see him actually in the game plan on Saturdays. I was wrong. James L. Laster is making an impact as well as Caleb Barnett. Vanderbilt took the lead 21-7 on that touchdown, then forced South Carolina into a turnover on downs on an incredibly electric stop on a 4th and 1 rushing attempt where Vanderbilt just swarmed Faison in the backfield. Then, have to be a little negative on this game recap. A little bit of negativity. Vanderbilt had a chance at that moment at the end of the third quarter to fully stomp on the throat of South Carolina. Vanderbilt drove it all the way down the field inside of the South Carolina 10, and Diego Pavia on third down threw a really bad interception in the red zone. Vanderbilt was up 21-17, up 14 points. A field goal puts you up 3 scores and almost ends the game at that point. Diego Pavia saw a flag come out that was a holding on Vanderbilt and just threw the ball in a place you can't throw the ball. If that guy in front of him didn't intercept it, I think 2 other South Carolina defenders would have. It's not like there was a guy running open and he just missed a linebacker low. He just had a brain fart.
It was just it was a misplaced ball.
Yep. Fortunately, Vanderbilt's defense stepped up, forced another turnover on downs in the fourth quarter. Vanderbilt drove down the field off that turnover on downs, 6 plays, 18 yards. Brock Taylor, rocket launcher, knocked through a 51-yard field goal to extend that lead to 3 scores, 24-7. Vanderbilt then forced a South Carolina fumble, went down, scored a touchdown on a Cedric Alexander run to the left side, then forced another fumble from South Carolina before basically running out the rest of the clock. Vanderbilt punted. South Carolina threw another interception in the red zone, and then it was ball game. Blaze Berlowitz was out there kneeling the ball. Vanderbilt defeats South Carolina 31-7. Now ranked number 20 in the AP poll. South Carolina has dropped out of the AP poll. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Sorry, we're going to get to AP stuff in a second. There's a lot of discussion about this pre-pod. But I'm going to go into the stats real quick. Diego Pavia, not a stat line that's going to blow you away, but a pretty efficient stat line from Diego Pavia. 18 of 25 for 177 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, a 76.9 QBR. Pavia also had 11 carries for 24 yards. James L. Laster was the leading rusher in yardage, 1 carry for 44 yards. And to remind people, Laster now has 2 carries on the season for, I believe, 79 yards and 2 touchdowns. Is he the most efficient player in all of college football?
He might be, but going to Diego, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought he had 2 interceptions because he threw 1 off his. Never mind. That's the Virginia Tech game. I'm sorry. It's been a long day. Thank you.
Yeah, he only had 1 interception.
You're right. Sorry, it's been a very long day.
Both of them were in similar situations where there was a flag thrown on the Vanderbilt offense. And none of his interceptions have just been like, oh, man, that was a good play. It's been like, what the hell are you thinking when he threw them?
Yeah.
So they both were similar in that capacity. Cedric Alexander, 13 carries for 41 yards and 1 touchdown. Richie Hoskins, 1 carry for 15. Caleb Barnett, 1 carry for 11. MK Young, 3 carries for 9 yards, kind of lightly utilized this game. Richardson, 1 for 4. Martel Height, 1 for 2. And AJ Newberry, 2 carries for -2 yards. He didn't really see the field until the very end of the game. That's AJ Newberry.
Yeah.
Eli Stowers was the leading receiver, 3 catches for 45 yards, including a big catch over the middle on a 3rd and 21. Trey Richardson, 4 catches for 34 yards. Martel Height, 4 for 33. Excuse me, this Coors Banquet has me burping.
The banquet beer.
Cedric Alexander, 2 catches for 26 yards. One of those was an incredible one-handed catch that resulted in a touchdown. Junior Sherrill, 3 catches for 14 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown was on a beautiful whip route, a beautifully designed play by Tim Beck, where everybody thought it was going to the right side of the field, where they had 3 receivers stacked. You'd seen that formation before. You'd seen Eli Stowers catch a touchdown out of that formation, completely fooled the defense.
Yeah.
Junior Sherrill got outside leverage, and it was over from there.
That whip route went low-key viral on football Twitter. I don't know if you saw that, but I saw a lot. I think it was Dan Casey tweeted it, and then a bunch of other college football and NFL accounts were tweeting his route, and they're like, what a beautiful route.
Richie Hoskins, 1 catch for 14 yards. And the most efficient man in all of college football, again, 1 catch for 11 yards. Vanderbilt, as a team, forced 4 turnovers on South Carolina, 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions. Is that right? Yes.
That is correct.
Vanderbilt only had the 1 turnover from Diego Pavi's interception, even though he did pitch one backwards that thankfully went out of bounds. Nick Rinaldi got the game ball, 7 total tackles, 1 sack, 2.5 tackles for loss. The leading tackler, 12 solo tackles, CJ Hurd, the Sea Snake. I feel even more justified, and one of my takeaways from the Virginia Tech game was CJ Hurd is a star.
He
is a star.
He is. And it's so funny to say that too, especially, and I know you're not a Durkee Wright truther, but we can both agree on CJ Taylor was a huge loss. And to go into this season, and I'm not willing to say he's an upgrade over CJ Taylor yet, but I'm close. I am very close.
Yeah, I said it going into the year. This doesn't detract from anything that CJ Taylor did, but I know I've been quoted saying that it is a probable upgrade over CJ Taylor. You can go and run the tape on that one. Brandon Fontenette, 5 total tackles, 2 tackles for loss. Mark Davis and Brian Longwell both with 4 total tackles. Brian Longwell with 1.5 tackles for loss, as well as an interception that was tipped by Keanu Coate. Who had the other interception?
Brian Longwell.
Well, I just said Brian.
Oh,
Longwell.
sorry, my bad. Brian Longwell and Zaylen Wood.
Oh, yeah, duh.
Yeah, I also believe Brandon Fontenette got one of those fumbles. He was the one that stripped the ball.
Yes, they don't have it like listed on here. I can't find it, but yes, the Zaylen Wood interception was a beautifully designed defense by Steve Gregg.
Dropping him back into coverage, diabolical.
And also perfectly executed by Zaylen Wood.
Yeah.
I mean, just fooled Lenora Sellers completely. And that was a huge momentum-changing play for Vanderbilt as South Carolina was driving on their second possession of the game. A lot of 2 tackles, a lot of 1 tackle. Langston Patterson was obviously ejected for targeting at the end of the first half, but thankfully, since it was the end of the first half and not the second half, he doesn't have to sit out half against Georgia State, so that is huge. That is it for the stats. Vanderbilt corralled Vakari Swain, only 1 return for 11 yards. Nick Harbor almost took one of those kicks back, very, very close, a shoestring tackle. 1 return for 43 yards. Trey Richardson had 2 returns for 40 yards. One was really good at the beginning of the game. He almost broke it, got shoestring tackled. One was a bad decision to bring the ball out. No punt returns, all fair catches for Vanderbilt. Brock Taylor, of course, 1 for 1 from 51 yards, 4 for 4 on extra points. 3 punts for Nick Haber, averaged 44.3 yards per punt, but most importantly, limited Vakari Swain's ability to return the balls. That was a huge part of South Carolina's point production coming into this game, and I think was on our keys to the game, was containing him. So that's all of the stats, well, all the Vanderbilt stats. I'll flip over to South Carolina here. Lenore Sellers, prior to injury, was 6 of 7 for 94 yards, no touchdowns, and an interception with a QBR of 35. Luke Doty was 18 of 27 for 148 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception with a QBR of 32.5. So basically the same QBR for both South Carolina QBs. Running the ball, Faison was pretty impressive. Obviously, he is the bell cow of that backfield. They were just getting him back into shape in that offense. 15 carries for 74 yards and a touchdown. I thought he looked pretty impressive. Luke Doty, 9 carries for 20 yards. Oscar Attaway III, only 1 carry for 6 yards. I know South Carolina was forced to throw the ball quite a bit at the end of that game, but I was surprised to see that few carries for Oscar Attaway. Lenore Sellers, 3 carries for -3 yards prior to injury. South Carolina receiving, Nick Harbor, 4 catches, 66 yards. He got open a few times, but nothing extremely deep down the field. Vanderbilt did a good job containing South Carolina's offense in general. Jordan Dingle, 3 catches, 43 yards. Donovan Murph, 2 catches, 34 yards. Vendarius Jacobs, 2 catches, 30 yards. Mazeo Bennett Jr., 2 catches, 20 yards. I'm not going to read through all these because who gives a shit. Vanderbilt beat the hell out of South Carolina, and the rest of the country has taken notice. Trevor, what are some of your kind of immediate thoughts coming out of that game before we get to 3 key takeaways?
My first immediate thought, it's really 2, but I'm just going to congeal it into 1. No, I'll just keep it on one side of the ball because I'm sure we'll get to the other side of the ball. The defensive line for Vanderbilt, this might be. I'm actually going to nix that. This is the deepest Vanderbilt defensive line I think I've ever seen in my life as a Vanderbilt fan. I went back and I checked the snap counts. Vanderbilt had 14 guys rotate on and off that defensive line. 14 guys on the defensive line saw action. I don't know if that's ever been done in Vanderbilt football history to where they have so much depth that they can play 14 guys. That was my immediate takeaway, was the depth in the defensive line. They absolutely manhandled South Carolina's offensive line. And also, too, I know Lenore Sellers got knocked out. Luke Doty came in. Still, Nick Harbor is a hell of a wide receiver, and I was very, very, very impressed with Vanderbilt's secondary and their ability to keep him in check.
We've also been Vanderbilt fans for a lot of years. Vanderbilt has never received an ounce of pity for having key players out during games. That's never been added into context of any kind for Vanderbilt. So yeah, that's you play with what you have. I'm tired of hearing the excuses. It doesn't delegitimize this win at all. He played for a full half of the game and Vanderbilt was leading.
Yep.
South Carolina fans can bitch and moan as much as they want. It doesn't matter. Vanderbilt's 3-0. South Carolina's not. Vanderbilt's 1-0 in the SEC. South Carolina's 0-1 in the SEC. All week. You know what? I heard about Lenore Sellers a little bit, but you know what I really heard about the whole week? It wasn't Lenore Sellers from South Carolina fans. That's not what we heard about all week. All we heard all week was how dominant this South Carolina defense was going to be. That Vanderbilt had no idea the bear they had poked.
Namely,
Dylan Stewart.
There you go.
No idea what Dylan Stewart was going to do. He was going to rip Diego Pavia's legs off once Bryce Henderson called him whatever. You know what Dylan Stewart did?
Nada.
3 total tackles, 1 TFL, ejected from the game for punching Diego Pavia in the face after they were down late in the game out of frustration.
Mm-hmm.
Vanderbilt dominated South Carolina's line.
Yeah.
Dominated South Carolina's front. That was the story of this game.
Yep.
All week, I just heard about South Carolina's defense. Lenore Sellers doesn't play on that defense, and Vanderbilt dominated that South Carolina defense. They ran through it like a hot knife through butter.
Yep.
So, Trevor, you want to get to our 3 key takeaways here?
I do, and that's why I sort of held off on those initial takes, is because there's these 3 I kind of are pretty, not in depth, but big deals. First off, we hit on it earlier a little bit. My key takeaway number 1 is, these aren't in order, but James L. Lassiter is electric. This Vanderbilt backfield is deep, and I'm going to stand by this. James L. Lassiter deserves a scholarship. The amount of production he's getting thus far, and his efficiency, and how much of a weapon he is for this Vanderbilt offense, both in the run game and in the pass game, I think is sensational, especially when you put it into the context of he's the third back. It's not like this guy's the one of the two. He's the third back. So you got two guys ahead of him that are also really, really, really good. And then let them sit, let them get fresh legs. Oh, all of a sudden here comes this little jitterbug, James L. Lassiter. He's electric. I love watching him play football. So much Jerron Seymour in him, not just because of the size, because of his – he's even faster than Jerron Seymour. I think he's a better football player than Jerron Seymour was. But I love watching that guy play football. I think he deserves a scholarship. I'm really excited to see how he progresses moving forward this season.
So this will not be, well, it is related to the game. My key takeaway number one, and I hope I can express all of the thoughts in my head properly during this. Vanderbilt legitimized itself on the national stage in a way they have never done before, ever. You have never seen the talk from college football, national analysts, from everyone. Not just say it's different than what Vanderbilt did last year against Alabama. They were the story of college football for that week, and that was an incredible experience. The top sports moment that I will ever have in my entire life. It cannot be topped. What they have done the last two games, and granted, Virginia Tech, after their big loss to Old Dominion and Brent Pry being fired, you could argue South Carolina and Vanderbilt broke Virginia Tech, but clearly that team was a little overrated going into this team, and Brent Pry lost control. Vanderbilt going into this game, there were some people picking Vanderbilt to win this game. I saw no one picking Vanderbilt to come and whip the ass of South Carolina. For the second week in the road, destroy a Power 4 opponent in a hostile environment that was hyped up throughout the entire week. And I'm seeing a little bit of the narrative just be the same as it was against Virginia Tech that, oh, well, South Carolina was just overrated. Well, that's fine. But Vanderbilt just beat two Power 4 opponents belt to ass by 24 points each.
At their place.
At their place.
At night.
Vanderbilt, in the last 6 quarters of football, has outscored two Power 4 opponents 65-7.
Mm-hmm.
Vanderbilt, in the second halves of the last 2 games, has outscored their opponents 51-0. Vanderbilt legitimized themselves in the eyes of the national media, and there is no denying that this Vanderbilt team is here this season and is a good football team.
Mm-hmm.
That was all you heard all offseason was, oh, well, now that there's film on Diego Pavia, teams are going to be able to take away what he does. And it's like, no, I multiple times joined other podcasts, and you can go look at the comments on Instagram where I was getting just wrecked in the comments when I was like, well, Vanderbilt, I don't think this team thinks they're sneaking up on anybody. This team just thinks they're a good football team, and I think they're a good football team. And that's what they've proven. You cannot make the argument any other direction. And theoretically, we're going to get into the next 2 games as we continue to do this podcast. There is a very, very, very good possibility that Vanderbilt is going to be 5-0 headed into Tuscaloosa to take on the Alabama Crimson Tide. This Vanderbilt team right now has juice, unlike any other team in the history of Vanderbilt football. You can go back to 08. You can say they started out 5-0 in 08. That was different. They got a little lucky. We can all look back and say it was an incredible time. They ended up finishing that season 6-6, winning the Music City Bowl. Incredible memory.
That was a Cinderella story.
That was a Cinderella story. This doesn't feel like a Cinderella story. This feels like a good football team that is exposing the lack of ball knowledge and research done by national analysts and college football guys. That's what this feels like.
Yeah.
This is a good football team, and they just proved it on the national stage. So that's my key takeaway number one. Nothing specific to that game really, but just what they have done is phenomenal.
What a fantastic take. I totally agree. And I think we'll definitely delve into that a little bit more when we get to the AP voters. And even call me biased, I think the disrespect that Vanderbilt is still receiving from some people who are big J journos. My key takeaway number 2, Bryce Henderson and Isaiah Glass were sensational in locking down Dylan Stewart. I know Bryce Henderson had the he's whatever comment, and shout out to Bryce. He locked him up. But we got to remember, too, that they switched sides. Dylan Stewart switched sides. So both Isaiah and both Bryce had their hands full whenever it came to Dylan Stewart, and they absolutely manhandled him. No sacks, kept him at bay. And so I want to really highlight those 2 guys, but I think the offensive line in general, another guy I want to shout out, man, I think Jordan White is nothing short of spectacular. Watching Jordan White play the center position and how he manhandles guys and he opens up the lanes in the run game and how he is in pass pro, I think is sensational. I think the offensive line as a whole thus far has been wonderful. So shout out to those guys. Shout out to Cade. Shout out to Bryce. Shout out to Jordan. Sensational job. Sensational job by those guys. Chase, can't forget big boy Chase.
I have a couple I'm going between what I'm going to have as my key takeaway number 2. These are not in order of any kind. Since I already kind of blew my load a little bit, where I accidentally quoted a stat I was going to use for this key takeaway number or key takeaway, I'm going to do it as my number 2. And it's going to be pretty, the depth is showing. We've talked about it this entire episode. We talked about it leading up to the preseason. I will give us credit for that one, is we talked about how much depth this team had, depth of athleticism in a way they have just never had. That is what is showing up in these second halves. Mm-hmm. And we talked about it after Virginia Tech, but it's even more reiterated in the South Carolina game against a fellow SEC opponent that I didn't hear hardly any murmurings of South Carolina being overrated until Vanderbilt beat the shit out of them.
Yeah.
So now all of a sudden they were overrated. But Vanderbilt, like I said in my first take, Vanderbilt has outscored opponents in the final 2 games in the second half 51-0. And obviously they had the game in hand against Charleston Southern, so they pulled starters halfway through the third quarter. 51-0 in 4 quarters of second half football against Power 4 opponents. I don't think there needs to be that much more said. The defensive line, you already talked about the 14 guys rotating in. The fact that Langston Patterson goes out with that targeting penalty at the end of the second half, that's the leader of your linebacking core. That's your guy. And Vanderbilt fans almost universally kind of went, well, we got Nick Rinaldi, we got Bryce Cowan. It's not like it's a loss. Obviously, you want to have Langston Patterson, but nobody hit the panic button. Mm-hmm. Nobody's like, oh, shit. Like in the past, that would be like losing Zach Cunningham off the defense. And you're like, we don't have anybody that can approach that type of production back there. Vanderbilt has multiple guys at almost every single position that can step in and do not just do the job, but excel at the job, that are hungry dogs fighting for snaps and cannot wait to get their chance. You see, it looks like an SEC team. Mm-hmm. It looks like a good SEC team where they just rotate in more freak athletes after freak athletes. That's what Vanderbilt looks like at every single position. It's Wataha being out for 2 games and not being fully healthy against Virginia Tech. I bet you hardly noticed. Vanderbilt's biggest interior defensive lineman. You hardly noticed because they got Zaylen Wood. They got Glenn Seabrooks. They got Aaron Bryant. They got Mason Nelson. Mm-hmm. They got Joshua Singh. They have guys at every single position. And that depth is not going away. And that is a dangerous football team that it's not. Obviously, Pavia is the guy. He's the engine that runs the car. But the rest of that car is built with Ferrari parts as well. Yeah. I mean, the rest of this team, the talent, we talked about it all preseason. I don't think the national media and people that cover the SEC, all of the eyes were just on Pavia, were just on Eli Stowers. And that's kind of what everybody knew about Vanderbilt. And that's the highlights. But underneath in the meat and potatoes of this Vanderbilt roster is a lot of underrated talent and athleticism. Bryce Cowan and Nick Rinaldi, CJ Hurd are perfect examples of that. You never heard CJ Hurd mentioned on any of the previews outside of the Door Report and maybe some of the other sites that specifically cover Vanderbilt. So the depth of this team is exciting and shows this team is not a Cinderella flash in the pan story of any kind. They are deeper than they were last year, and they are more talented than they were last year. And last year's Vanderbilt team was a solid football team.
Mm-hmm. And I totally agree. Once again, a great point. Another guy in that linebacker room that we have not mentioned that we thought he was a ghost. We thought he didn't exist, but the past couple of games have made a couple plays. Prince Colley. Prince Colley had a PBU this game. Prince Colley, whenever he goes in, you're like, oh, who just made that play? Who? Number 20. You're like, oh, my God, that's Prince Colley. Prince Colley going and making plays. Shout out to the whole defense. I'm going to stay on the defensive side of the ball. And this is no disrespect to Tim Beck. I love Tim Beck. Tim Beck has done a sensational job his entire time at Vanderbilt last season and so far this season. But I'm a defensive guy. Stephen Gregory's in his bag. Stephen Gregory.
Are you reading my takeaways right
am I?
No. It's going to be funny. Keep going.
Stephen Gregory, dude, is in his bag. That dude is a dog and a defensive mastermind. What he is doing with this Vanderbilt defense. Now, granted, it's easy when you got the dogs. You just gotta make the play call. But The way he schemes, the perfect example, dropping Zaylen Wood into coverage. Who would have thought to have dropped your 3-tech or your 0-tech into coverage like that? Who would have thunk it? What he does with simulated pressure, what he does with stunts, delayed blitzes, how he's playing his coverage is super aggressive. He is not one of these like cookie cutter, I'm going to sit back, we got the lead, we're going to play quarters. No, dude, he doesn't care if they're up 62-0. He's coming after your ass. And I love that style of defense. And just, it was so funny because after the, and I tweeted it, don't freak out, but in my mind, I was also like, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. The first drive for South Carolina's offense, everybody knows the first drive, first 10 plays are always scripted. Best plays you can put together. South Carolina comes out, marches down the field. People are like, man, this Vanderbilt defense sucks. This Vanderbilt defense is awful. Swiss cheese. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, I tweeted, I'm like, okay, guys, it's a scripted drive. Let's wait till we see the unscripted drive. Let's wait till Stephen Gregory sees what they're doing. Let's see how he adjusts. Stephen Gregory and that Vanderbilt defense locked them down the next drive to the very end of the game. Stephen Gregory is sensational, and I have nothing but high praise for him.
Yeah, tacking on to that, because that was actually not my other key takeaway. It's just what I had phrased here. From SEC Numbers Guy at SEC Numbers Guy said SEC teams allowing 10 points or less per game. Oklahoma, LSU, and Vanderbilt. They have all also beaten a top 15 team in the process. The defense this year, and maybe you can attribute some of that to some offenses that have been struggling. We have time to see. The defense is improved.
Yes.
Regardless of whatever happens and plays out, I'm not ready to crown this defense as an elite level defense yet, because I think they have faced some offenses that you can very much make the argument are struggling offenses. But regardless, what we hoped going into the season was this defense was going to improve and be like a middle of the pack defense.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what they have this year, worst case. I think that's now the floor.
I guess I'm glad you
defense.
pointed that out. Is I think middle of the pack is the floor. I don't know, man. I've rewatched every game, and I just look at what Stephen Gregory is doing on defense and how he's playing his coverage and how he's playing his backers, and it's hard for me not to drink the juice and say, man, this might be a top tier SEC defense this year.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
I can see that
hard.
path. I'm just not ready to crown
Totally
them that
understand.
yet. I can
Totally
fully
understand.
see that happening. My third key takeaway, Tim Beck is in his bag.
Bang.
All coordinators
Yeah.
are in their bag right now. I wrote this in my takeaways of the game. This course banquet, I got to stop drinking it. It's making me burp.
The banquet beer.
But Tim Beck is, every time, I wrote it in my takeaways, I said it in the spaces, every time a defensive coordinator thinks Tim Beck is going to zig, he zags. He is scheming up one of the most unguardable offenses in the entire country.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you prepare for just the scheme they're running, much less Diego Pavia. And the off-script stuff that he does. I don't know how you get ready for this offense. There is so much going on within it. And when you have a guy that is locked in like Tim Beck is, like he pulled out, I'm not a big double reverse kind of guy. And he pulled that out at the perfect time in the red zone against South Carolina. They didn't see it coming at all. It's the little screen to Stowers they didn't see coming. It's the basics of knowing when to lean on him, knowing when to go into a little tempo. Like you saw for the first time against South Carolina. That was a surprise. Tim Beck is just in his bag. I don't think I need to expand on that. I'm ready to see what he has on the docket for the rest of the season, because right now I've never seen a Vanderbilt offense with more solid and consistent and pretty much perfect play calling, utilizing all of the weapons that are inside of this Vanderbilt offense. And it obviously helps having an offensive line that can block as well.
Well, I also want to hit on a little bit of something with the offense too, in his play calling. And it was a conversation that both of us had, and we really agreed on was this offseason, people are like, okay, we need wide receivers, we need wide receivers, we need wide receivers. And we were both of the opinion, I think, that yeah, that would be nice, but like in a Tim Beck offense, you don't really need good wide receivers. Well, because it's so run heavy. Now, don't get me wrong, Tim Beck's offense is still very much focused on the ground game. However, what you're seeing with Tim Beck and how he's scheming up his offense with actual weapons on the outside, Vanderbilt is stretching the field more than they did last year. Like the numbers show that Vanderbilt's explosive play rate through the air is already better than what it was this time last year. And so I think Tim Beck sees, okay, I've got weapons on the outside with Junior Sherrill and Trey Richardson, and I know what I have in Eli Stowers. Maybe time to show some people that, yeah, my offense can get it done through the air.
So is this the time before we get into premium message board questions to talk about the AP poll?
We both have thoughts.
We've given our 3 key takeaways from the South Carolina game. Incredible victory by Vanderbilt. They are ranked number 20 in the AP poll, number 23 in the coaches poll. I'm kind of surprised they were higher in the AP poll than the coaches poll, to be honest. But interestingly enough, I'll let you take the floor first, and then I can add on anything because you were carrying the torch this week as I carried the torch last week.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Here's my issue with the AP. And I don't know if the AP has always been like this or if it's just because now with Twitter and internet access, we can see how people vote every which week. I mean, as Vanderbilt fans, we actually have a vested interest now that our teams are good. What the AP poll voters are doing, and this is not just the ones that slighted Vanderbilt, this is most of them, is quite frankly absurd, and it is shameful to college football. It is shameful to college football fans. It is shameful to the programs within college football, and I really mean that. So the AP voters are not national writers. They are predominantly beat writers. And if you know anything about a beat writer, you know that all they do on Saturday is focus on the team they are assigned to. They don't watch other college football. They don't watch the noon slate. They don't watch the 2:30 slate. They don't watch the 6. They only watch who they are assigned to. So at the end of the night, whenever they're done writing their articles, they go home 12, 1 in the morning. AP poll votes have to be in by 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So they go in, they check the box score. We'll add this team, we'll add this team. Looks like this team won by a considerable amount. That is such a wrong way to vote for the AP poll. And I mean that, and I said it on Twitter, and I'll say it again. So I think her name was Brianna Green. I'll just use her for an example. Brenna Green. In her poll, she had South Carolina. She bumped them up to 10. This is after the loss to Vanderbilt. Bumped them up to 10. Did not include Vanderbilt on her poll whatsoever. Now, she wasn't the only one, but she was pretty egregious in what she did with Vanderbilt. Said that, oh, so sorry, I was tired, I was sleep deprived.
I'll read the exact tweet.
Read her tweet, and then I'll give my rebuttal to this. And this will be how I go on with every other AP.
And I'm sorry, I don't want to steal your thunder
No,
because
go
you're
ahead.
on a good rant. But people actually took this as like, thanks for owning up to it.
Yeah.
And that pissed me off even more. She didn't own up to it. She made excuses after saying she made excuses in this tweet. She said, unfortunately, I was on 4 hours of sleep and had worked 25 of the last 32 hours. So yes, that is exactly what happened. Jealous of the AP voters on the East Coast who can vote on Sunday morning. Not the case here. Polls due at 7 a.m. my time. I literally realized I made the mistake 15 minutes after the poll came out and panicked. I own it and I screwed up.
And here's my thing.
Aw,
Here's
poor
my thing.
She's tired.
If you do not have the time to properly research and properly evaluate teams for the AP poll, you should turn in your credentials and resign from being a voter. And I mean that. Because, and it's what the Haley Sawyer said, well, it's all going to even itself out. No, it doesn't even itself out, because what the mistake that you make for not doing the proper amount of research can impact a team come the time that it's time for the committee to put in their poll. Because you know what the committee initially bases their rankings off of? Previous AP polls. They are basing who is going to go into the college football playoff largely by your work. So your work is very serious and it matters. And if you do not have the time or the faculties to put in the effort to properly evaluate teams and properly rank teams, then you should resign. You should no longer be a part of it. And I'll go on this rant too. Ralph Russo, also somebody that I tweeted, also somebody that I think misevaluated Vanderbilt as well. Nicole Arbach. I thought she was fair to Vanderbilt, but her poll overall was very bad.
Kiko Riley, Notre Dame
Riley.
at 10.
Ralph Russo went on Twitter, posted a video explaining why he voted the way he did. Nicole Arbach wrote an entire column explaining why she voted the way she did. If you have to get ahead of it and release videos or write columns defending why you voted the way you voted, then that tells me in your mind, you know you did something wrong. So own up to it. And so Ralph Russo, whenever I ask you, hey, why did you vote this way for Vanderbilt and keep South Carolina in like this? It's like, oh, well, Lenora Sellers and I wasn't that high on South Carolina. But you go out and you post a video defending why you're doing what you're doing. You know in your mind you're wrong. Admit you're wrong. Admit you made a mistake. And admit that you did not put in the proper time and effort to evaluate these teams. Will works a full-time job and has his own side business. And Will is more qualified than you to vote in the AP poll. Will watches more football on a given Saturday than you do. And he doesn't get paid to do it. He doesn't get 6 figures a year to do it. And so I get it. People are like, oh, it's no big deal. It's just the AP poll. Vanderbilt will get voted up higher if they win. That's against the point. Because if Vanderbilt is given an improper starting spot, that already puts them behind the 8 ball. And in whatever week it is, week 8 or week 9, whenever the committee comes in and does their poll, they are going to look at week by week what the AP poll was and base their polls off that. It has a direct correlation to who gets into the college football playoff. Big J journos who say it's any different are wrong, and they're lying to fans, to listeners, and to readers to ultimately protect this precious persona they have of being a college football writer and an AP voter. That's my spiel. It shouldn't make me this upset, but it does. I just really hate it whenever people talk down to other people like they're on some pedestal. Like, sorry, Ralph Russo, I know you've been writing for college football for a long time. I guarantee you, and I'll stand on this, you don't watch as much college football as I do, because I can damn sure tell by the way you vote in the AP.
There are so many things that you said I agree with, and I might repeat some of the things you said because it did piss me off, and I'm not apologizing for it. It is endemic of everything that is wrong with college football and sports journalism in college football. It is a lot of people that did not intend to be in college sports.
Yes.
And they are doing it and treating it like it's a job. Guess what? During football season, you're going to be running on a little bit of sleep deprivation. That is why this Brenna Green tweet, and I didn't go directly at her because I just didn't feel like it. But unfortunately, I was on 4 hours of sleep and had worked 25 of the last 32 hours. Suck it up. Do you think I'm going to pity you that you're trying to convince and gaslight college football fans that watching college football and checking box scores is hard work and difficult?
We do it for free.
It's not difficult. I'm going to go tell the construction workers next door how hard it is to watch college football and write articles about college football and check box scores at the end of the night. We're not saying you have to evaluate every game and watch every single game. I'm saying look at the final scores. These mistakes are not like, well, she put South Carolina, ahead of Vanderbilt slightly or whatever. She bumped South Carolina up
and left Vanderbilt off.
Out.
Mm-hmm.
These are inexcusable errors happening week after week where people are just screwing up to the point of like, if it was at my job, I would lose my job. Like, this would be like replacing revenue with expenses in a financial statement. You can't do that. This is just unacceptable. And then the excuse of like, I'm just envious. I was on a little sleep. I just didn't have time. It's like, then you said, resign your vote.
Or drink a cup of coffee.
Dude, like, I'm sorry. This is your job.
Mm-hmm.
You're a big girl or big boy, okay? And it was actually Koki Riley, not Kiko Riley, who had Notre Dame at 10.
I always mispronounce his name too.
But there's more than one example. And each week we've just targeted the most egregious one, which this week was Brenna Green. And it was horrible. And it didn't make any sense. And that owning, if she would have just said the end part, I realized I made the mistake 15 minutes after the poll came out and panicked. I own it and I screwed up. If that was the only part of that tweet, I would not have this reaction. But she had to go on for 2 or 3 sentences before about how hard she was working and how tired she was and how envious she was of the people on the East Coast who had a better timeline to work on this. Shut up. Shut up. Nobody is going to feel sorry for you working in college sports journalism. No one is. They're just not. It's people in journalism that have never actually worked a job that is actually difficult and they don't like and had to wake up every day and do a nitty-gritty. I'm not even talking blue-collar manual labor. That's not what I'm comparing it to. But there's a difference in waking up every day and having to pour your entire mental faculties into something you don't give a shit at all about. And that's how it seems it is to these AP voters. That can't be.
They seem like they make it out like it's a burden.
That can't be how it is. You're not going to find pity from me. You're not. Do your job correctly or get out. There is no pity from me. And I'm assuming there's no pity from you either.
No pity.
I'm tired of sports journalists acting like they're holier than thou and know so much more than the average fan. They don't. I promise you, the average fan that sits on the couch and watches 10 to 12 hours of college football every Saturday, you know more than 90 to 95% of sports journalists. You do. And there are exceptions to that rule. Brett McMurphy.
Yeah.
We always bring up Josh Pate.
Tom Fernelli. I think those guys. Yeah.
There are plenty of guys that are just incredible at what they do. So I'm not throwing all of it. There are some great AP ballots. Like I'm not throwing all of them under the bus. But there are plenty of people in sports journalism that will talk from some pedestal as if they are better than the average sports fan. They know how it works because they've interviewed a coach or been in a press conference. Like that doesn't mean you know football or you know more about football. I was at fall camp, was at all the media availabilities. I didn't learn anything new. Basically 95 to 98% of my takes without attending fall camp and without attending media availabilities would have been the exact same from watching the games on TV and evaluating the roster. This idea that there's some insider knowledge is false. And the veil has been lifted. Social media has exposed the wizard behind the curtain. They have exposed the emperor with no clothes. Okay? The sports media and sports journalism, specifically in college sports, and it can extend out to other sports as well, they just don't love it. And if you love something, you're going to know more about it. And they just treat it like a job and they complain about the hours. I promise you, if I was hired on the beat to actually cover Vanderbilt, you would never one time. Have you ever heard me and Trevor complain? I'm not saying talk about that we spend a lot of time. I'm talking about complain. Come on here and be like, man, we just can't give full effort here. I mean, we might misevaluate some stats. We're just tired from covering Vanderbilt.
We gave full effort through the Jerry Stackhouse era and through multiple 2 and 10
full-time jobs that are completely unrelated to sports.
I just got home from school.
8 to 10 hours of my day is spent doing something that has nothing to do with sports. Imagine how much time I would spend watching sports if I didn't have to dedicate 40 plus hours a week to staring at financial statements and an Excel spreadsheet and doing data analysis. Imagine how much evaluation I would be able to do. It's just pathetic.
And that's not just for us. That's for like you guys, the listener. If you guys could quit your day job and you were offered a position as a columnist or a beat writer for any college football team, I guarantee you guys would outperform most of these writers. I guarantee you.
100%. We are anti-establishment, whatever you want to call it, sports media journalism.
As anti as you could get.
It is. You will never hear me apologize for this take. I hope some of these people hear what I have to say, and I would love to hear them refute me on this. I would love it. They're not going to. No one of any significant. You guys are significant. I love all of you listening to this. But no establishment media is listening to this podcast for the exact reason I'm talking about. Because they're not doing the research and digging into stuff how we do. They're just not. They don't love it. They don't eat, sleep, breathe it. And if you're listening to this, you know exactly what we're talking about.
Because you do. If you're listening to TDR, you eat, sleep, breathe Vanderbilt athletics.
And college sports in general.
And college sports
SEC
in general.
Football in general. And then you see the non-establishment media, which is a lot of the writers at On3. You see small-time thing, not small-time, but other guys like Chris Phillips with SEC Unfiltered. You can have whatever opinion you want about his evaluations and things. That guy's putting in the time, and I've never heard him fucking complain about the time he puts in one time.
Yeah.
Never once.
All these dudes that run every single message board at On3 are independent dudes.
Yep.
They
Independent publisher
independent publisher networks.
It is all people that love it and do it for the love of the game. Let's get to the premium message board questions real quick because we have a beefy episode already.
Hell
We're already
yeah.
over an hour. We're going to keep on trucking because we're not tired.
Choo, choo.
We did a 2-hour spaces till 1 a.m. after the game. I'm sorry, I still could have submitted an AP ballot and it would have been damn accurate.
Damn straight, brother.
First question from Arlen. Good question. Says, where is the weak link on this team? I'm having a hard time seeing one. Then he goes on to say, by the way, per PFF, Andy has the 8th best pass coverage in the country. Absolutely insane turnaround. I mean, weak link for me is we talk about depth. That applies to every position for me except offensive tackle. I would say depth at the offensive tackle position concerns me. If there was an injury to Isaiah Glass or Bryce Henderson, you would probably have to bump Chase Mitchell out more than likely. And then they do have some depth at guard, but there's not a lot of holes on this team when you really look at it. They have a lot of depth at corner. They have depth at safety. They have depth at playmaker at wide receiver. They have depth at tight end, quarterback, depth at quarterback. I don't see a blatant weak point anywhere on this roster.
And I'm trying really hard to think because I don't want to come off as biased and a sunshine pumper and all this hunky-dory with the construction of the Vanderbilt football roster, but it's hard for me to find a hole right now. If I had to nitpick a hole, I would agree with you. I think the tackle positions, if one of those guys went down, I agree you have to bump Chase Mitchell out. You do have guys who are very serviceable at guard, but I would rather not have Chase Mitchell move back out to tackle.
That's what we talked about this whole time is they don't really have that this year.
Maybe
they don't have
but like Jalen Ruth is serviceable.
They don't have, and he wasn't even talking about depth. He just said weak point or weak link on this team. I don't really think they have a weak link so far, especially with how Colby Taylor has been playing at that CB2 spot.
I don't think they do, man.
That is what is different about this team, and that's why we're so excited. Ezra, we have a lot of questions, so I got to kind of rattle through some of these.
Oh, yeah, we'll go rapid fire.
We can't dig into these too deeply. Ezra Chris Magnon says, what a fun last 2 weeks, and the cherry on top is we're ranked. My question for the week and sort of next 2 weeks is voters know we're going up against 2 not-so-great teams, where the odds of us beating them are very high. What does the team need to do or not need to do in order to move up the rankings to hopefully be top 15 or higher by October 4th?
Vanderbilt needs to win their games, and Vanderbilt needs a couple of teams in front of them to lose.
This is more, as long as Vanderbilt wins and handles business. And it can even be, they can have a slip up where they win by 10, for example, against one of the, it doesn't have to be blowouts necessarily. You're at the point, once you hit the top 20, you got to have teams in front of you lose, or you're going to have to play highly ranked teams in order to move up. That's just how it works.
Yeah.
So teams in front of Vanderbilt are going to need to lose. And Vanderbilt, to help themselves, needs to take care of business and beat these teams handily.
I agree.
Kodak Black and Gold said, if Vanderbilt was given the Eagles O-line, do we win the national championship? If so, how easily?
Yes. Very easily. Vanderbilt could just run the ball. Diego Pavia could never throw a pass in his life, and Vanderbilt would win the national title with the Eagles offensive line.
About the question about the weak link from Unabridged says, to piggyback on the DB question, what is causing this? Better one-on-one play, better scheme, better pressure leading to shorter times, waiting for receivers to get open? The answer is probably a combo of everything, but is there something you're noticing? Colby Taylor's playing tremendously better.
And he is Colby Taylor is physical as hell. I would really encourage people to go back and watch. It's tough to watch because they don't offer all 22. But Colby Taylor plays up. He is physical. He is on a dude's hip. Colby Taylor will lock you down. And Martell Hite's been awesome too. I just think Vanderbilt's got really good defensive backs. I think Vanderbilt's got really good deep. I think Marlon Jones has been really, really good.
Yeah, I would say individually they've started playing better. I would also say linebackers have improved in pass coverage, as well as pressure has been getting to the quarterback more consistently, and that helps the corner side a lot. I will also add on, because I got to throw in a little bit of dose of reality. You've played some pass offenses that are not that good. And right now, I mean, Kyron Drone's got his coach fired. Their passing offense is atrocious. And then Lenora Sellers, regardless of all the hype, has not been good this year. And their pass offense has not been good. Ow. Phoebe just bit me. But yeah, so I would say it is a combo of everything, but really the pressure getting to the quarterback and Colby Taylor specifically, linebackers improving. And then you just haven't played elite passing offenses, which I don't think there are that many elite passing offenses on Vanderbilt's schedule.
I was going to say, I don't know if there is.
I mean, LSU struggled against Florida pretty heavily. They haven't looked that crisp.
Arch Manning got booed off the field.
Deepwater 2015 said, "What Nashville restaurant would you recommend to Theo Vaughn for his upcoming date with Diego's mother? Antoinette? ?
I would recommend. I mean, in true West End Vanderbilt experience, it's got to be Satco. It has to be Satco.
I was about to say Rotiers. Somebody commented that. R.I.P.
R.I.P. Nashville's taking everything from me.
It's a good question. Serious answer would maybe be, we'll get a little trendy, get a little Noco, get a little Virago action maybe. But if I'm Theo Vaughn, I mean, I'm going Chili's. Getting a little triple dipper action.
Oh, dude, the West End Chili's.
The West End Chili's.
Oh, Lordy.
Also, the funny part of that was Diego adding on that Theo Vaughn left out part of the deal, which Theo had to reach out to Tate McRae in order to get him a date with her. That's my quarterback. That's my quarterback, baby. He just shooting his shot. Confidence, balls as big as Saturn. All right. Your boy Cooper said, "At what point do we start considering AP voters domestic terrorists?"
Now.
World's Strongest Vandy fan. Nothing sucks like a parentheses Gamecock. Quick 3 thoughts. Number 1, how the hell was Langston Patterson's hit targeting? I saw Pavia take worse hits every drive. It's a soft targeting. He did make contact with the lower part of the helmet, but it was because he got hurt.
Yeah.
If Sellers had not been injured, that would not have been targeting.
Yep.
Simple as that. Number 2, Zaylen Wood interception was the moment I knew we were going to win early. When a defensive coordinator is comfortable enough to call that kind of hot pressure, especially when we have been a cover 0 and 7 team in third downs the first 2 games, he knows he's got the QB by the balls. 3, not going to lie, as good as Langston Patterson is, with the backup QB being a pure runner, more reps for Cowan and Longwell might have been a blessing in disguise. Sideline to sideline isn't LP's game, has more pure Mike, although he still isn't the least athletic linebacker we've trotted out. Shout out to our 250-pound nose guard, Ethan Barr. Having Rinaldi, Cowan, and Longwell rallying to the ball constantly, that kid had 0 room to run, even when he did break the pocket. We'll say Langston does have good sideline-to-sideline coverage.
I do think that's really good analysis.
But yeah, I agree with a lot of those statements. Yeah. I mean, it's just the depth they have. Like, it's just not he's the leader on the field, but it's not a huge step down in athleticism or talent, especially when you have a running QB. That's just good analysis.
Also, too, how far we have come from Ethan Barr as our starting backer. Oh, Lordy.
I like this because he's pointing out something that I've said pretty consistently. Door_22 said, "We are now a quarter of the way through the season. How have your expectations for this team changed since the season preview, given what we've seen from both the Doors and our remaining opponents?" I would say, number 1, at this point, we are still early in the season. It is still, quote unquote, a small sample size. We are 25% of the way through the season.
That's a quarter, yeah.
It's not we're not after week 1 anymore. We are 25% of the way through the season.
Statistically speaking, that's not an insignificant sample size.
Yes, you've got a sample size, but how have your expectations changed?
I predicted Vanderbilt to go 9-3. I think I'm going to stick with 9-3. I do think this could be a 10-2 team, though. I really do. I have not liked what I've seen from Texas whatsoever.
I think personally, he asked about the remaining schedule as well. So I predicted them to go 7-5. I think now I would change that prediction to 8-4/9-3. the top end of the SEC opponents that Vanderbilt's going to be facing, Alabama, Texas, LSU, they seem a little bit worse than I expected. Still up in the air about LSU. I can't figure them out.
Their defense is good.
Their defense is really good. The more middle tier / solid teams on their schedule have looked better than I expected. Tennessee has looked better than I expected. Auburn has looked better than I expected. Missouri has looked better than I expected.
I think Missouri is the most surprising out of that group.
Yeah. So, I mean, this team, to me, the ceiling for this team has been raised infinitely. Like, there's not a single team on the schedule I think Vanderbilt cannot beat. And I'm not saying that, like, oh, they got to, they got to play, they roll the ball out on the field for a reason. I mean, no, legitimately, I'm going into every game thinking there is a real possibility Vanderbilt can win this game.
Yep.
Person for person, player for player.
Yeah, just athlete-wise, you can go into a game and you can look at the roster and you can be like, Vanderbilt can go bar to bar, athlete to athlete with it.
And it's also just, you have, in my opinion, you have the best quarterback in the country.
Mhm.
That doesn't mean the best NFL prospect. That means the best college quarterback right now. And you would be hard pressed to find me a guy with more experience that's more in control of an offense and comfortable right now than Diego Pavia. Mm-hmm. And the offensive line and defensive line have just exceeded my expectations as well.
Yeah. And a guy that has more continuity with their offensive coordinator than Diego Pavia. Like, I think we forget Diego Pavia and Tim Beck have been playing football together for 4 years now. That's a lot. That's unheard of in this area of the portal.
We got to go get through. We have a lot more questions. From Vandy Jr. 2, I'm not going to read this whole question. It says the Titans have averaged 11.5 penalties per game, but they are terrible, so forget them. Vandy has averaged over a third fewer per game, 7.5. Vandy is really good, so it does matter. 22 penalties for a whopping 177 yards, an average of 8 yards each. Quick summary phrased into semi-questions. Game 1, 7 total, mostly procedural. Mark it up to first game, question mark. Game 2, 11 total, 5 objectively called, 6 more subjectively called, question mark. Game 3, 4 total, 2 bad penalties for personal foul and 1 for targeting, but also somewhat subjectively called.
This question is not speeding us up.
I'm somewhat skeptical of the Game 2 penalties because the head ref was a moron. 2 one-line judge committed several felonies with his spots fraud. Although I would like to discount Game 2, I can't. Now, here's my full question. Are you concerned with the penalty phase of the game so far? Are you okay with it? I'm concerned. I'm not, like, panicked about it. But, yeah, this team is committing a lot of penalties. I mean, they are. But I'm not panicking about it. I don't know. I mean, they're 76. No, that's not right. They're 118th in the country in penalties per game. No, that's not right either. They are 101st in penalties per game in the country, 91st in penalty yards. That's not good. And Clark Lee's teams are typically disciplined, but when you have a team flying around and a lot of pieces rotating in, maybe you're going to have more penalties. So it is a concern, but I'm not panicked.
Yeah, I thought he was asking about the Titans, to be honest with you. I kind of zoned.
That's why I
zoned out whenever he started.
That's why I said I wasn't going to read it. Then I realized he was asking about Vanderbilt, and I was like, it's not a bad question because we didn't talk about the penalties. The penalties are a little concerning. I don't think it's panic mode or anything, but yeah, they're committing more penalties. Vandy Lance 25 says, when Will picked the Commodores last week, I never stopped believing. If Will continues to do this, I may become the biggest threat to the American government. Just one more thing. How about them Commodores?
Let's go.
The Common Man's Commodore 95 says, Dearest Mother, I trust you recall those blessed Sundays when prayer was followed by the most divine fried chicken. On Saturday night, under the sweltering night skies of the Devil's Quarters in South Carolina, our ranks were likewise fed with a fowl, known by Cocky, not so much now, serving as our feast. Many gathered as witnesses to see if our infantry bore the steel of true soldiers. To none's surprise, within our camp, we set upon so-called mighty host of cocks, driving them from their field, and with a most thorough belt-to-ass assault. Our campaign returns to our esteemed quarters with vengeance aflame in our hearts, for soon the panthers march into our waters. The men speak of turning their hides into coats for a winter playoff march. Pray, Mother, that vigilance shall not depart us, striking blow, head body, until every foe has felt the full weight of our belt-to-ass violence. Anchor down, Admiral C.
God, I hope he keeps doing that.
I need you to talk about something.
Yeah,
I gotta
so
read. I'm gonna have to start reading these. We're getting way more than we used to before. I've got to start reading these before.
yeah, I do read them beforehand. I do want to go back while you're looking over that. In regards to AP voters being terrorists, I do think we should declare them a terrorist sleeper cell. I didn't have much of an answer for the penalties. I do have an answer for the penalties now. I'm with you. It doesn't concern, like, I'm not hitting the panic button yet, but it does, like, I kind of raise my eyebrow a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, this doesn't feel right. I don't really like this, but it hasn't cost Vanderbilt a game yet, which is nice, but it could very well eventually cost Vanderbilt a game, especially whenever we know how weird and how tricky these SEC officials are. So I think that's something that Vanderbilt's definitely going to have to watch out for.
All right, last one, and there are some that might relate to the recap of the game that we'll get to after the Georgia State preview, but we have a whole preview we have to get to. Bex for VU says, we have so many talented pass catchers, I can't decide who is my favorite. Sherrill, Richardson, Stowers, Height, Barnett, Alexander, Hoskins, Laster, Coleman. Who's the best? Who's your favorite? Who will be the most valuable receiver at season's end? I know Stowers is the preseason decorations, but for me, I think it may be Richardson on all three counts.
It's hard for me to pick. There's something about Junior Sherrill that I just love. There's something about Junior Sherrill that I just gravitate towards. I can't explain it.
I'm going to say who is the best. It is clearly, to me, Eli Stowers.
Yes.
Is the best.
Undeniable.
Who is my favorite as of right now? That is Trey Richardson. What he has done is just been incredible. And I'll say who's the most valuable receiver at season's end. I'm going to say Trey Richardson, because it's going to open up things for Junior Sherrill where he's not going to be able to be double teamed. It's also going to open things up slightly for Eli Stowers to have that weapon. That's not discounting anything Junior Sherrill does, but Trey Richardson has been exactly what we were hoping for going into the season, finding wide receiver number 2. So
absolutely,
we have a beefy preview. Well, not really that beefy of a preview, but a preview to get into, as well as a lot more premium message board questions. We are going to have to figure out a new way to do this as Vanderbilt success continues and we get a lot more questions, because this is like a 4 or 5 hour episode worth of questions. So everybody out there, grab yourself a delicious beverage, and we'll be right back after the TDR cocktail break. Welcome back from the TDR cocktail break, and welcome back into episode 333. In segment 2, we are going to be previewing the Georgia State game coming up this Saturday at 6:30 p.m., televised on ESPNU inside of First Bank Stadium. To get to the gambling line real quick, Vanderbilt is a 26.5-point favorite over the Georgia State Panthers, as well as the over-under is at 53.5. Vanderbilt fans will not fondly remember last season's game against Georgia State. Vanderbilt almost destroyed their entire season in front of our eyes in Atlanta. Vanderbilt lost to Georgia State 36-32 in disgusting fashion against a bad football team with a quarterback that later got benched. Vanderbilt came out sleepy, did not play well. I was there. It was gross. This season, Georgia State is currently 1-2, with their sole win being a 37-21 victory over Murray State, FCS Murray State. Last year, Georgia State has had a lot of turnover from their roster last year. They still have the quarterback, which I'm going to butcher the name on. Do you know how to properly pronounce it?
It's like Christian
Veloy?
I think it's Christian Vior.
Okay. Velleux. He is still on the roster, but he's not the starter. He did play a little bit, but so just to dig into this, it's a very confusing roster to analyze, because Georgia State brought in a quarterback after week 1, right? Or right before week 1.
They brought in also a total of like 36 new players.
Just this in and of itself. So Georgia State brought in TJ Finley, like right before week 1.
Western Kentucky legend.
TJ Finley started out his career at LSU, then went to Auburn, then went to Texas State, then went to Western Kentucky. Now he's at Georgia State. At none of those stops outside of Texas State when he had a solid season was he good. I don't understand why Georgia State did this. It feels like you're going to destroy confidence in the team when you bring in a guy that hasn't been with you through fall camp and hasn't been with you during the summer grind. It's an insane decision to me, a very bad decision by Georgia State. And TJ Finley, who was kind of brought in expected to be the starter, really struggled against Murray State and, in fact, got benched in the middle of that game. Against Murray State, TJ Finley was 11 of 18 for 150 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions with a QBR of 18.5. He was replaced by Cameron Brown, who I am assuming is going to be the starter against Vanderbilt, who came in, was 9 of 11 for 101 yards and 3 touchdowns. This is not a good Murray State team. Murray State's 0-3 this year. Georgia State really struggled with them, and TJ Finley did not look good. Georgia State has a new running back, or new running backs, as I should say. They have Rashad Amos and Branson Robinson. Amos has 26 carries for 140 yards, 1 touchdown. Branson Robinson has 18 carries for 79 yards. That quarterback, Cameron Brown, who I think Vanderbilt will be seeing during this game, 13 carries for 58 yards and a touchdown. Now, on the receiving side of things, one of the names that will be familiar to Vanderbilt fans absolutely tore up the Commodore defense last year with 7 catches for 128 yards and 2 touchdowns. That is Ted Hurst. He is back. He was wearing number 16 last season. He's wearing number 1 this year. He is somebody to watch out for on this Georgia State team. Georgia State did lose their kind of wide receiver number 2 guy in Dorian Fleming. He transferred to Maryland. On the defensive side of the ball, Georgia State has a couple solid guys. Linebacker Josiah Robinson leads the team in tackles with 20 tackles, 1 sack, 1 fumble recovered. And then they have a solid safety in Jordan Huff, who has 15 total tackles, 2 passes defensed, and 1 interception. It is incredible how little information there is about Georgia State compared to South Carolina and Virginia Tech on the internet. So all of this, I'm just having to evaluate just watching highlights and looking at stats. As much as we talked about Vanderbilt's penalties, Georgia State is a more penalized team than Vanderbilt, very undisciplined. They average 8.5 penalties per game. That is a full penalty more than Vanderbilt, number 118 in the country. They have a pretty split offense. They run the ball about 46.97% of the time. So they actually are a pretty run or pass heavy offense. That 46.9% is 98th in the country. They throw the ball a little over 53%. That is 39th in the country. Not the most efficient offense. Thus far, their defense has not been good. Opponents are completing the ball over 70% of the time against Georgia State. That's 114th in the country. Opponents are averaging 10.5 yards per pass. That is 124th in the country. Teams are also running the ball effortlessly against Georgia State, 6 yards per carry against Georgia State's defense. That is number 127 in the country. To get to who Georgia State has played thus far, they started out the year on the road at Ole Miss. We have seen Ole Miss might not be the trucking offense that is effortlessly going through every team they played. They beat Georgia State 63-7. At home, Georgia State played Memphis. They lost that game 38-16. And then last week, they beat Murray State at home 37-21. Overall, Vanderbilt, extreme talent edge. They had that last year. Maybe not as extreme as it is this year. They had that last year and went in and lost. So, Trevor, any thoughts on Georgia State?
Yeah, I know you said you weren't able to find a lot of stats. I have some interesting stats on Georgia State that I'll just blast through. Like you said, I think there's 3 guys Vanderbilt really needs to watch out for. Ted Hurst, wide receiver. I think Rashad Amos, also according to Pro Football Focus, Georgia State's second most valuable player. And third, I think a guy on defense they need to watch out for is defensive back Deuce Fillmore, primarily a man coverage guy. Whenever he's in man coverage, receivers are only catching the ball 42.9% of the time against him. So he's a man coverage. He's pretty good. Like you said, their offense, their defense, bad. EPA per play, they have negative 0.11. That ranks 111th in the country. Their offensive success rate, 40.7. That's number 91 in the country. Defense, gets a lot worse. Their defensive success rate, 49.1. That ranks 132 in the nation out of 132, dead last. Opponents' EPA per drive, negative 0.68. That ranks number 112 in the nation. So to put it lightly, you read off some of the stats. The advanced stats say that Georgia State is bad on offense and defense. One thing I found very interesting, Georgia State in attempted explosive plays percentage, 88%. That is 92nd, explosive pass play percentage. They are in the 88th percentile in the nation. So they throw a lot of passes, 20 yards or more. So I think that's something that Vanderbilt's going to have to watch out for.
Yeah, you want to go ahead and dive into our 3 keys to the game?
Absolutely.
We all know what happened last year. I'll go first on this one since you went first. On the takeaways, we know what happened last year. We saw how that game started, a strip sack that set Georgia State up to score. Vanderbilt was down from the very beginning. They came out sloppy. They came out unfocused. That cannot happen this year. My number 1 key is don't give them hope. Come out in this game. Do what you did against Georgia State. I know it's do what you did against Charleston Southern. I know it's FBS versus an FCS program. Vanderbilt is tremendously more talented than this Georgia State team. Don't let them in the game early. Don't give them a momentum building play early, whether it's a turnover, them getting a 3 and out and a quick strike score, punt return, whatever it is. Just don't give them hope early. That is the number 1 key to the game. That is easier said than done, obviously, but you have to be mentally focused for this game. And I cannot imagine that Clarkley and this team are not going to be mentally focused, because this team, a majority of them were there last season and felt the disgust that was after that game.
Yeah, I totally agree. My key number 1 is going to be based off this explosive play percentile. They obviously love to stretch the field, do it more than almost anybody. I think Vanderbilt's secondary is going to have to be ready to be tested. I know that Ted Hurst is a really good wide receiver. I don't think that Georgia State's weapons on the outside really match up that well with Vanderbilt's secondary, but nonetheless, they have to be on their P's and Q's because they're going to try and stretch the field a lot. So they're going to be ready to run.
Yeah, mine will kind of piggyback off what you just said. Mine is specifically control Ted Hurst. I mean, he dominated Vanderbilt last year. 7 catches, 128 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's back, and he looks good again this year. You brought up the thing about throwing the ball down the field. That's the guy you got to focus on. He's a legitimate talent, and you have to focus on shutting that guy down. I think Vanderbilt has more talented individuals in the secondary that have improved with the season of experience. So control Ted Hurst is my key number 2.
Yeah, my key number 2 is run the ball early, run the ball often. I think the more physical you can be on the ground game, that obviously is going to wear out Georgia State's defense. A defense that's already not good and defense that is already incredibly susceptible to the run. You can run the ball early and often. That's just going to make them more tired. Come second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter, they're already going to have quit by then. So it's going to make the road to a victory a lot more manageable for this Vanderbilt team.
Piggybacking off yours again, mine is dominate the line of scrimmage, more specifically, and once again, an easier said than done thing. You know what stat Vanderbilt lost to Georgia State in that loss last season? Time of possession. Vanderbilt possessed the ball 27 minutes, 13 seconds. Georgia State possessed the ball 32 minutes, 47 seconds last year in 2024. Vanderbilt needs to control the line of scrimmage, but more importantly, control time of possession. Don't turn the ball over, force Georgia State into quick possessions. Vanderbilt has leaned on teams in the second half. They need to lean on Georgia State from the beginning of the game and dominate time of possession, which means you dominate the line of scrimmage. So that's my key number 3 is dominate the line of scrimmage and win time of possession.
Yeah. We swear to God, we don't share our keys to the game beforehand. We're just this locked in. My key number 3, keep Georgia State behind the chains when they're on offense. They obviously love to stretch the field. Their offense is not good. If you can win those battles on first and second down and keep them away from the chains, that's going to limit their offensive playbook. They're already not a good offense, don't have the capabilities or the faculties to stretch the field and get those long 3rd and 9, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 7s. Win first and second down. Make it tough for them on 3rd down.
Get to the bank this Saturday. Vanderbilt has put out some $15 tickets that I believe are still available. Stop by Lot 2. get to the bank. This team deserves the support of Vanderbilt fans out
Yep.
there. When and they will come. I expect a solid crowd, but come to that game.
Yeah.
Come to the bank on Saturday. Get to West End. It's going to be a good time. Let's get to our predictions here.
Hell yeah.
You want me to go first or you want to go first?
You can go first.
So I think Vanderbilt pretty much controls this game for a majority of the time. I think Georgia State will hit one or two big plays. As you said, they like to stretch the field. I think Ted Hurst is a talented guy. I think, and I'm going to forget the guy's name, Cameron Brown. I think he is a pretty mobile guy that can create some problems. Vanderbilt dominates this game. I think there's no chance this team does not come out focused. There's no chance this team is unfocused. They know exactly what happened last year. Vanderbilt wins this one 44-10.
Sorry, like your Coors Banquet's getting to you. My Diet Coke's getting to me. I'm very similar in terms of the offensive points. I have Vanderbilt at 41, Georgia State 3. I think Vanderbilt wins this easily. I think Vanderbilt dominates the entire time. I don't think that this Georgia State offense has the ability to score on this Vanderbilt defense. As long as, like you said, as long as they come out focused, they are going to dominate this game. The only team in this game that can beat Vanderbilt is Vanderbilt themselves.
Yeah, Vanderbilt legitimately, we talked about this before, they legitimately just have to play a D-plus game, and this will be a 3-4 score game.
Mm-hmm.
A D game will win this game by 3-4 scores.
I totally agree.
Last year, they played an F-plus game against Georgia State because they came back and almost won it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that first half against Georgia State was an F-minus. It was atrocious. So they cannot have that happen. Georgia State, of course, can beat Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
this is not Charleston Southern.
Yeah, they did it last year.
They did it last year. This can happen if Vanderbilt comes out and does not play well. I do not expect it to happen. I would put the percentage at 99.2%, 99.5 that Vanderbilt wins this game. I think if they play 100 times, Vanderbilt wins 99 of them.
I concur.
But the one can always happen. It happened.
Yeah.
I would have said last year that it would be they play 100 times, Vanderbilt wins 93. 94 of them. I was insanely confident last year. That didn't work out. But I'm even more confident this year, especially knowing there is no way this team is going to sleepwalk through this game. Now, the Utah State game, that one scares me a little bit.
We'll worry about that.
Next. We'll worry about that when the time comes. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it.
Focus on the Panthers.
We have quite a few more premium message board questions here. I can't remember if I read this one. From yet another Door lawyer. He's a consistent poster, so I'm going to read whatever he says. It says, no question this week, but man, it's absolute madness to be a Door fan in the best way. Everyone at work knew what happened this weekend, and I've never seen so many people give actual respect to Vandy. Although it's hard to not think that it's going to come crashing down, I'm so enjoying the ride. Enjoy the ride.
Hey, brother, it ain't crashing down this year.
It ain't crashing this year. And even if it does, fuck them.
I love it.
Enjoy the ride. Vanderbilt fans deserve to enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
That's it. Even if it does come crashing down,
enjoy it right now.
Mm-hmm. Enjoy it. We sat here 2 years ago and could not have fathomed sitting here with national hype, a top 20 AP team.
In week 4 now.
Yeah, could not. That was not even in it. We were just hoping doing this podcast that this team could get back to not being embarrassing.
That they could get like 2 SEC wins.
Yeah, that they could get back and maybe sneak into a bowl game.
Yeah.
Maybe they could, dude, if everything connects just right, that they can maybe win 6 games. But, man, if they could just get back to 5 and be on that verge, that's not where they're sitting now. So just enjoy it.
Yep.
Black Knight Door says, super pumped for Saturday. Fans/players should be super engaged considering what happened last year. Going to be a good atmosphere. Now that we have a legit team and the fans are starting to show, let's please improve the in-game entertainment. Light shows, turn the lights out at media timeouts, fourth quarter hype song, etc. Also, the anchor drop needs a complete revamp. Very anticlimactic. It's been talked about before, but this is something I often think about that Vanderbilt could massively improve on. We talked about that after week 1. Or I did specifically, voice crack, that the in-game production was not good. And a lot of that can be attributed to that was their first game in the newly redone stadium. But turn up the bass, turn up the music. I know the speakers were pathetically quiet while the announcer was incredibly loud. Utilize the lights more when Vanderbilt scores. They have those fancy lights.
Yeah, they do.
Utilize them more. Just overall, show replays better. Somebody went on to answer this or reply to this, and Vanderbilt said, give everyone a freaking shaker. It turns a mild crowd of 25,000 into what appears to be a frenzied high-energy mass of twice that. This is what I wanted to say. Vanderbilt, please, for the love of God, somebody listen. Please put the shakers on the seats in the stadium. Other schools do that. They don't hand them out at the front. I'll go do it for you. Friday night, you give me access to the stadium. I will get a group of people to lay down the shakers. That is in it. Put them in the seats. If you put them in the seats, that crowd's going to look incredible.
Yeah.
That is an easy fix. Just do it. They're not going to do it, but do it. It's simple. It's easy. Do it. Yeah, that was more of just like a comment, but I very much agree that the production quality of the game day environment, they are getting their feet under them in the new stadium. So I will give a little bit of benefit on that, but it can be a lot better. It can be a lot better.
I'm just happy to be watching winning football, to be honest.
Yeah. No, I'm happy to watch winning football, but
yeah.
But that's also like that's somebody's job. The
Yeah,
game day environment
definitely.
and all that is people's jobs.
Definitely.
And I'm not saying it was horrible or it was unacceptable. That's not what I'm saying at all. But it can be better.
Yeah.
It can definitely be better.
I do feel like they have gotten better over the years. Like with Shout,
yeah.
Shout is so much. Last year they did a lot of cool stuff with the lights. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that it was game one, but I think they have progressed over the years.
Oh, it's
certainly.
gotten better.
Yeah. But they could do better. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I agree.
You're investing so much in the facilities. Fans are engaged. It's time to kind of pull out all the stops. This is your moment. This is your moment to capitalize on it. Do everything you can, even if it's overkill. Do everything you can.
I tell you what, let me control the Admiral and I'll get the crowd going.
Omador says, given Pavia's performance, power rank the top 5 current SEC quarterbacks based on 2025 and 2024 seasons. That's kind of hard because there's a decent amount of new quarterbacks.
I'll still do it, and I'll do it really quick.
Yeah.
Diego Pavia, John Mateer. I will go after that it's
It's a lot of
sheesh.
questions.
I'll go Bo Pribula, Ty Simpson, and I'll go give me Gunnar Stockton.
People, Vanderbilt fans are not going to like my answer. I just want to make sure I'm based on what I have seen, based on what I have watched, and I've watched a lot of football. Number 1 for me right now is going to be John Mateer. Number 2, Diego Pavia. And that's a very 1A, 1B. Like very interchangeable. I could very much put Pavia at number 1, but I'm going to try not to seem like a homer. Now at number 3, I'm going to put Joey Aguilar. I have been and he kind of faded against Georgia in the second half against that defense, but he did lead them down to a field goal that should have been made to beat Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Joey Aguilar has been impressive. This is when it gets tough. Nuss hasn't looked that good. Arch hasn't looked good.
No Bo Pribula?
Bo Pribula. Yeah. I also have been calling him Pribula until I heard him this year.
Same.
Pribula is probably 4.
Gunner at 5?
Yeah, just based on that throw to London Humphreys in the corner of the end zone. That was about as clutch of a throw dropped in a bucket as you can have. So I'll put Gunnar Stockton in at 5. But yeah, I feel like right now, based on what I'm seeing, that there's a slight gap, that there's a big gap after, not even big, there's a gap after the top 2 to me. And then there's another gap after the top 4 in Aguilar and Pribula is kind of how I would put it. That 5th one, you can interchange a lot of guys.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't overly impressed with Stockton until the final stretch of that game.
I was between Stockton and Blake Shapen. I've been really impressed with Blake Shapen.
I'm trying to read through these. Somebody said I like the shaker idea. Oh, this is the team over-under, so we'll rattle through these really quick.
Hell yeah.
Vanderbilt total TDs, over-under 8.
For this game?
Yeah.
Under.
I'm going under on that one. That's not too crazy. That's 56 points.
I'll go under.
I'll go under, though. Pavia, 4 or more total TDs.
Over.
I'm going to say push. Or I guess if it's 4 or more.
Got to give me halves.
Then over.
Got to give me halves.
Yeah, we got to have halves next week. So if it's equal to what he says, it's going to be over for me. That's
Yeah.
how we'll do it. Alexander, 4 or more total TDs.
Under.
Under on that one. I think he does have 2, but under. Stowers, 2 or more total TDs.
Under.
I'm going to go under. Richardson, 2 or more total TDs.
Under.
Under. Lassiter, 2 or more 50-yard runs.
Over.
Over. Here's the Lassiter
I
truther.
believe in my boy.
I'm going under on that one. Defense, 4 or more sacks.
Over.
Over. 2 or more fumble recoveries or interceptions.
So 2 or more
turnovers, basically.
Over.
But he's just saying that they have to it has to be actually forced turnovers.
Yeah, over.
Yeah, I'm going to say over on that one. I think they have at least 2. I love those questions. Keep those coming, VU Daniels. We love those player prop lines. Somebody then said they hand out shakers at the entrances, which I was like, yes, but
put them in the seats. I'm with you. Put them in the seats.
Georgia Dorr says, assuming Vandy takes care of business and gets out to a significant lead, when are you hoping to see Pavia and other starters pulled?
Second drive into the third.
Yeah, I would say pretty similar to Charleston Southern.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once you get up, I would say halfway/late in the third. I really expect or hope to see very few starters playing in the fourth quarter.
I want to see some Drew Dickey, man. I want to see Drew Dickey sling it.
We need to see Blaze Berlowitz get real snaps.
I want to see Blaze just, dude, Trey, you run deep, and Blaze, you just chuck it.
Sylvan Park Door says, after 3 weeks into the season and the Doors choking the chicken last Saturday, what areas do you think the team can improve on the most?
Sacks, because you can never have enough sacks. I'll say that. That's a cop-out answer. But
to go back to Vandy Jr. too, I'm going to say penalties. We're still seeing a good amount of penalties.
Yeah.
And just small errors. And then I would say just the small moments of bad decision-making from Pavia. They're very small. You got to take the good with the bad. Thankfully, that backwards pitch that he had earlier in the game rolled out of bounds, but we'd be talking about that one. But you got to take both sides of the coin with Pavia.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
I would mostly say the penalties, just clean up. Those are relatively easily cleaned up. Next question is, okay, guys, can you please rank the easiest to the hardest SEC games left on the schedule? This is from McNulty Nash 1. Goes on to say, here's mine: Kentucky, Auburn, Texas, Missouri, LSU, Tennessee, Bama. Call me a sunshine pumper, but I honestly believe we can win at least 5 of these games.
I'll go Kentucky, Auburn, Mizzou, Tennessee. Shit, I forgot Alabama. Kentucky, Auburn, Mizzou, Tennessee, Alabama, LSU, Texas. Just because Texas on the road that's a brutal environment.
Yeah, that's actually pretty much where I would put them right now, to be honest. I just think that Texas game on the road is brutal, even though they haven't looked that good.
Just the road environment.
None of these, and LSU would be ahead of Texas, but it's at home.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a pretty good ranking there, Trev, off the top of the head. Anon and a lot of numbers says, what do you think revenge looks like? Are we confident enough to win with conservative play calling, resting starters, etc.? Are we going to go all out to crush them? How would this team treat this game differently than Utah State next week?
My definition of revenge is I want a sledgehammer. I want the meme of an atomic bomb versus a coughing baby. That's my idea of revenge.
I mean, I think they have enough on film now that they don't have to pull anything out crazy. I don't think you're going to see anything crazy new, but I think just execution of their offense can be the revenge they're looking for. I think you have to prepare for this game differently than Utah State, in that Utah State is a much better football team than Georgia State, and you better get the boys focused on Utah State. An 11:45 a.m. kick right before Bama, you have to hammer into their brains to be focused way more than this week. Because this week, I don't think that's going to be a problem with a lot of these guys that experienced that loss on the road last season and the disappointment that was. So I would just say the message from the coaching staff is going to be quite a bit different, with just hammering in. You cannot sleepwalk through this game or this can blow up your season against Utah State. They're a much better team than Georgia State. I just want to keep reiterating that.
I agree.
Last question. Mr. Magoogs. Observation. Since the start of the actual season, Diego's media availability has been near zero. Seems to be a deliberate move to focus on the actual games and remove noise. This is compared to this summer when Diego was seemingly everywhere. Have you noticed it? Do you think it is intentional? If it is, do you agree with it or not?
Diego didn't get a lot of media play during the season last year either. Like he had some
versus the offseason.
Oh, versus the offseason. I mean, I haven't really thought about it, to be totally honest. I couldn't give you a legitimate answer because I haven't thought about it.
I think it is definitely intentional. I think the hype train around Diego, and I also think it's intentional by him as well. I mean, he said what he needed to say during the offseason, and now it's time to focus on ball. I mean, you just see way less player or media availability once they're in the season. And just because Diego's receiving a lot of national hype, that's not really going to change.
Yeah. I'll say this too.
I mean, most of the Diego last season media stuff was just after the Bama game.
Yeah.
That was most of what it was.
I'll say this too, and this will be the really only thing I have to add to this question is I'm not close personal friends with Diego Pavia. Like, I'm not claiming to be that, but I don't think people understand. I think people see the media appearances and the sort of theatrics around Diego Pavia and assume that he's not all about ball. I can confirm with 110% certainty all that dude cares about is winning, and that's something that I would be willing to take to the grave. You don't have to worry about Diego Pavia being ready every Saturday, and I believe that.
That man is the ultimate competitor. That doesn't mean he doesn't like to have a good time.
But
he is a competitor that is locked in, and it's time to play ball. And all that stuff during the summer was great, but it's very different when you're summer and doing summer workouts and being able to go around and have a lot of access to media. You're in Nashville. There are a lot of podcasts based in Nashville. It's very different than when you're in season. So I think it is intentional on all sides. I think Diego's locked in, as well as I think Vanderbilt is shielding some of that to keep this team focused. Anything else you want to add on this very long episode 333?
I want to reiterate what you said. If you live in the Nashville area, if you live in the Middle Tennessee area, get to the bank on Saturday. No excuse not to get to the bank on Saturday. Sell it out, pack the bank, support the boys. Shame on you if you're not at the bank Saturday.
We have not been able to say this often. This team deserves your support.
Absolutely.
We said it during basketball season, actually, is when we said this team deserves your support. This football team deserves fan support. They have done what every fan could have asked for. If you even have the possibility, get to the bank. If you can't afford tickets, get to lot 2. Walk up to me. I will buy your tickets on the spot.
We will buy you tickets. Yep.
So get to the bank. It should be a fun environment. So for myself, Will Byrum, my co-host Trevor Hulan, this has been episode 333 of The Door Report, powered by 615 Collectibles.